Welcome to part 2 of our episode on the Bartlett City School District. If you don't know my name and you don't know who I'm sitting with, you have to go back and watch part 1 because you won't know what we're talking about at all. So we're going to jump right in. So Mayor Parsons and Dr. Stevens, talk to us a little bit about some of the early challenges that were faced when embarking on this road to creating municipal school districts.
Yeah, I think the first thing that was pretty astounding is the Tennessee legislature allowed the creation of municipal schools. They took that off, but when they first did that, the way the law was written, it was only applicable to Shelby County. Well, the folks from Memphis City in that area filed a lawsuit in federal court saying you can't have a law that just impacts one area. And I tell you, I'm so super thankful for Mark Norris, who was our senator, and the late, great Ron Lawler, who was our representative, and Curry Todd, because it was the Norris-Todd Act. They went back. So when that first law was passed, they had an election, and school board members were elected. Well, the judge came in and voided that election, said it was unconstitutional. The legislature in the next session, they had to go back, fix that law. Once they fixed that, we had the second school board election, and then your school board members were there. And then from that point, they could go out and hire superintendents who could go and hire teachers and staff and get the schools running. But it was a very, very, because you had the whole legal prongs having to play through the court system. You had to, both sides had to agree. And at one point they came together before this thing went all the way through the court system, and they came to an agreement. So, for example, Bartlett had to pay a certain $600 and some odd thousand for post-employment benefits, is what they said. A lot of people thought it was for the school buildings, because that was the big hang up. As you remember, Mayor, was like, well, what's the fair value of these schools? Are we getting them? The county folks had said, and the folks in Bartlett said, we've already paid county taxes, so we've already paid into these school buildings. So you had this whole legal thing going, and then at the same time, you had, okay, we're going to create municipal schools. We're going to hire a superintendent in January, and we're going to have school August 1st. And you've got, 6.5 months to stand up an 11 school, 9,000 student district without any money. So it was a very, very interesting time. So, Mayor, I don't know if you want to chime in about.
I just say we're very thankful for, and at the core orchestrating all that was Mayor Keith McDowell. He took this very seriously, and he was on point. He was on cue, and every time we turned around, was going to Nashville, talking to Mark or Ron, and consequently, none of those guys are there anymore. But it was a lot of challenges. The buildings was a challenge. The city, if we got this, the city was going to have to contribute to maintenance of effort. How was it going to pay for that? There's all kind of rumors. We do this deal, property taxes are going to skyrocket. How we're going to pay for this? We end up funding that to the sales tax. And you may remember back then, my income taxes are going to go up 2 years from now. The taxes have not gone up. The accolades and awards have constantly come in for the past 10 years to the schools. And hitting on the business part of that, John, is just as you look at the business community as a whole, it changed the whole landscape. Because if nothing else, it stabilized real estate in Shelby County. Because what happened for years, you would leapfrog out and go build a new school out here. It'd get funding for a new school, and then everybody would have subdivisions around it. And then it was all leapfrogging to the next one. Now, with all the municipal school systems that stabilized the real estate industry, and you move to that community for the real reason, for the amenities that community offered and the quality of life that offered. And we stopped all of that noise about who's the real BCHS.
Mayor, I think one of the pieces that is coming back to me now, it was many years ago, and some of these memories you want to kind of suppress them, PTSD going through all this. But I remember Jim Mitchell, who was the previous superintendent, and Tim Fite and Dr. Bill Bozeman. They came and did a feasibility study. So they came and looked and said, if you do these things, you can financially afford. And this was someone who was an expert in the field of education. Jim Mitchell was Shelby County's previous superintendent many years ago. Tim Fite up in Tipton County. And they came to the mayor and alderman, and they presented to you and said, we will put it on paper. And the funny thing was there were a lot of people in county government and other places that said, Jim Mitchell, you're wrong. And I think the funny thing is now none of them ever come back and said, Dr. Mitchell, you were right. And I still talked to Dr. Mitchell, talked to him last week. He's, still around doing a lot of consulting work and things. But when he laid that out, that yes, you can afford this without raising property taxes, because I think what I had heard is the aldermen and some of y'all went up and visited, I think, Kingsport schools up there. And I think they said, when they hire that superintendent, you better hang on to your wallet because they're going to try to get every penny of it. But the great thing is we've just had a great relationship with our chamber and with our mayor and alderman, Mayor Parsons when he was an alderman. And we're all working for what's best for Bartlett. And I think the thing was there was just fear of the unknown. And when there's fear of the unknown, people start filling in the blanks. So it's incumbent upon us to start doing that. And I think Jim Mitchell, thinking back, did a really good job of saying, you can do this, you can afford it, and here's a roadmap.
Well, and then speaking of all of the different people that were involved and all of the different entities that were involved in order to, determine whether it was possible. And once it was determined that it was possible, laying the groundwork for what was going to be done, the chamber played a large role in kind of facilitating getting all of those people together for those conversations, if I remember correctly. And so if everybody can tune into episode 13 of the Heartbeat of Bartlett, we talk about how the Chamber of Commerce serves a vital function within the community. And in that vital function is actually to bring business leaders and community leaders and legislators together to facilitate those conversations. So this was a prime example of how the chamber played a role in bringing these people together to facilitate these conversations.
Well, I don't think the politicians and mayor, you may think otherwise, but I don't think any politicians would want to go down a certain path without having the business community go along with it. And so our role was to just make certain that this was something that our businesses in Bartlett wanted to see happen. And they did. I mean, I never heard any negative comments come out to us about, hey, what's Bartlett trying to do? No, this was something everybody wanted to see happen.
So change is really scary. That window of time during transition when it was the Shelby, Memphis, what was it called? The Consolidated School District?
It was just called Shelby County Schools then. Now it's Memphis Shelby County. So
there was a period of time where that was the school district, and then during that time there was transition happening where the municipal schools were working to be stood up. Can you talk a little bit about what the challenges were, what work needed to be done, and the sentiment within the community?
Yeah, I think what had happened is I was deputy superintendent in the merged district for 1 year, and Bartlett was part of that. All of us were. And it was such a large organization. For example, getting food delivered. So we cooked food in our cafeterias in the county schools, in Bartlett schools. In Memphis, they cooked it at a central nutrition center, and they delivered the food out to the schools. Well, now all of this had to be harmonized. In one of my roles previous to being deputy superintendent, I was on a team. There was a transition planning commission that gave us 157 recommendations. Well, there was more than 157 things we needed to fix before we could start the merged district. But going through that process, and so they were not delivering food to the right schools because it was just, we were drinking out of a fire hose. We have this 150,000, on June, you have two separate districts. And then on July 1, now you have this one big district, and everything had to be harmonized. So when we did start Bartlett, one of the advantages I think that I had is I was part of that. So I was part of putting it together. So I kind of had a little bit of a roadmap of saying, well, if you're going to take it apart, here's the things you got to make sure. You've got to get food delivered to the schools. You got to have people's payroll and their checks right. You don't ever want to be in the room where people are getting an on-demand check and there's 400 in the room, and you get to the W's and you've only passed out about 50. And I've been in that room before during the merger. It was just chaos because so many things had to be put together. But I think the community, they were really disenchanted with the level of service, and it was because so much happens, and it was such a big change. And like I said, in the previous podcast. It wasn't that one was good and one was bad. Whether you cook it in there or cook it in the central, it was just different. And now everybody had to adapt. And that year, the year that we were merged, from an educational perspective, we did everything we could to try to keep it out of the classroom so the teachers and the kids could get. But it was a very chaotic year. So unfortunately, sometimes when you go through the chaos, or fortunately, you learn lessons. So when we started the district, from when I was hired in January to June, through those 5 months or 6 months, and now we're into July, we kind of had a pretty good roadmap. And I was able, as Dr. Mitchell said in his feasibility study, hire the right people and get the right people. But there was a lot of upheaval and chaos. Of something that was just so interesting. The principals were still working for Memphis Shelby County Schools. We took the buildings over in June, but they weren't allowed to be in it from a liability perspective. I mean, something as simple as that. There was like I said, there were so many layers that we had to undo. But at the end of the day, we're in a much better place, and I think our whole community, rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
Because the thing I've always said, I want to see Memphis Shelby County Schools do well. I want to see Arlington, Millington, Bartlett. I want to see all of us succeed, everyone in the county. And I think that's the attitude that we all have now.
Yeah.
You hear the word build a better Bartlett. And what you find through that is you don't always can see the end. You envision an end result. But when you say build a better Bartlett, I think because of the adversity, because of the struggle, the price you paid for the dream that wasn't attainable to this period of time, then you lift people's spirits by being able to dream that we can have. And through that whole process of building a better Bartlett, through that process, you think, well, that really means building a school program. But if you look back now, 10 years later, it built a stronger community.
Yep.
I think our community ties with individuals, and when you begin to talk about it's our schools, it's our city, it's our hometown, and we're all stronger because of what we did and the adversity we come through, its challenges. You don't get nothing in life easy, and that what you work for and you sweat and you invest in it, and not spend, but you invest. There's not a better asset out there today for a better tomorrow than investing in those young men and women. I just had interns from the high school. We fed them lunch yesterday in there. That's our future. And who would know that 10 years later, the 10 years later, that we would have an EV vehicle plant, full motor plant company coming and spending billions of dollars 25, 30 minutes from the school, and the Elon Musk that's going on right now. I told those individuals yesterday, I said, don't sell yourself short. You're sitting in a unique time, and everybody, you're going to be able to sit under the shade of trees you didn't plant.
Yep.
Your future is bright. Bartlett's future is bright. And a young individual graduating from Bartlett High School or wherever around here, but particularly Bartlett High School.
Well, if you could talk a little bit about Bartlett High School, because Bartlett High School there has been a transformation there as well that makes it such a gem in the community of Bartlett.
What I'm going to tee this off to Dr. Stevens is that what I really like is the way that our school has looked at the future. And what does that future look like? Is it robotics? It's so much different than when we graduated school. It was more manual in a sweaty, hot condition with a wrench and stuff. Now you're working in a sterile environment. It's totally different. And what I like the most about Bartlett High School, we had when I graduated, the Votech buildings was built in the next year right there. But how it's changed and how Bartlett has adapted to what the needs are of the future, in the way this superintendent has the foresight to make sure that we're poised and we're positioned so that your kids that go to Bartlett High School have the best opportunity available when they walk across that stage.
Well, I'd like to echo that, Mayor, because I see in Superintendent Stevens a realistic attitude about the world. And he's not, one of these academicians that sit around and dream all day. He's looking at the world as it really is. And I applaud David and his team for the CTE program you got. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that, because y'all are kind of a model for the state in that area.
Yeah, a couple things we did. We knew that facility was substandard. We really worked really hard with Scott Fleming and Fleming Architecture with a master plan. We came up and we were able to do a $70 million renovation, state-of-the-art facility in school. But as we did that, we looked at, yes, we're going to have a lot of kids that are going to go to college and be successful, but you don't have to go to college nowadays to be successful. With the world of technology that we live in, as you said, with Elon Musk with his AI center that he's putting in here, the Ford Motor Company, we went up and looked at the robotics and how they're doing that work, the medical manufacturing that we have in Bartlett. I believe we're the second largest in the country. Besides, there's I think a place in Indiana that may be a little bit bigger, but we have that. So what we did is we said, yes, kids that want to go to college, we're going to give them full AP, honors, dual enrollment, but also we're going to have credentialing for our vocational students. We're going to have dual enrollments. So we have a state-of-the-art machining lab, and Senator Norris was very, very instrumental in that. The city was instrumental, Haas, TCAT, all the entities got together. I've told people so many times, I have had so many lunches where we would get some chicken and potatoes, and we would sit around and we'd talk about workforce development. We'd eat a great lunch. We turn around and leave, and nothing ever happened. And so many times it gets very frustrating when you get all the bureaucracies together to try to make it. But here was a time where we all came together, and we have a state-of-the-art machining lab where we have students that are graduating from Bartlett High School with credit from TCAT, walking straight over, whether it's at Titan or Stryker, EMS, whoever it is, making probably better than a starting teacher, even though we did get starting teacher salary, some of the highest in the state at $50,800 this year for a starting teacher, which is pretty good. But these kids are coming out and they're being successful. They're being part of the community. They're staying. That's one of the things Mayor Parsons always said. He wants to see kids grow up, graduate, get training, go to college, come back to Bartlett, put down roots, buy a house, and be meaningful members of our community. We're super excited about it. So we've had that dual pathway. We try to meet all the students' need, giving them that. Mechatronics is a big one where we're looking at electronics, robotics, hydraulics, all of that, working with Ford, looking at the things we're teaching, because it's different. It's different when I was in school. And it was different than when most of us were in school. And technology is really, it's just exponentially moving forward, and we have to stay on the
Could I say
that?
one
Of
thing?
course, yeah.
For you guys out there that are looking for a place to go, I've got a cup of coffee in my office waiting on you. If it's just a restaurant. We've been talking about schools today. And you understand, schools, our kids are important and important. They're dear to us, but we like eating at good restaurants. We like
about the chicken and potatoes now.
the chicken and potatoes, and we like for your family members to go to good jobs. Of one thing that we don't do a good job, and we talk about these kids and getting employment. Of all the municipalities around here in Shelby County, they all collectively contribute about $16+ billion to the overall economic impact in Shelby County.
Oh, yeah.
Of all those put together, you have to put almost all the other cities together to equal half of what Bartlett does.
That's true.
We're the largest economic engine in Shelby County outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
That's right.
So there's no better place to have your kids in Bartlett schools. There's no better place to have your business than in Bartlett. And there's no better place for you to have your industry than let our Bartlett police take care of you, let our Bartlett fire take care of you, and we'll take good care of you. We'll take good care of your employees, and you need to be in Bartlett.
Mayor, you don't have another election until 2 years from now.
Well, and I do think that I think it's incredible that there are so many student services that are offered by the Bartlett City School System. And you talked about all of the vocational and technology options that are available. But if you tune into our previous episode of The Heartbeat of Bartlett, we talked about the arts. And in so many parts of the country where a focus has been taken off of the arts for reasons of funding, Bartlett is completely the opposite and doubles down and invests in arts education in every form. And I'm saying that I'm looking at Jason.
Are you going to show your calendar?
I wish I could.
Huh?
I'm going to send Sam a picture of my calendar, and he's going to add it in post-production. He'll fix it in post. And I'm looking at Jason Sykes, who's off camera right now, because I want to talk about the photography program and how incredible that is. But I mean, there's so many arts programs that are available through the city of Bartlett.
Yeah, we always look at the 3 A's: academics, athletics, and arts. And arts is just important. Those kids that are in the band or in that photography club are just as important as that quarterback and that running back or that basketball player out on the court. Those kids, it gives them a place to plug in. We have one of the largest bands in the state. Our marching band is phenomenal. Our choral department, our theater department, many awards. They did Little Mermaid last year. If you ever get a chance, folks out there, to come see a production at Bartlett, it's amazing. They did Little Mermaid, and it was incredible. Sold out shows every night. So much talent. But we have to look at, there's so many, we want kids involved. And if they can get involved through photography or chorus or football or the Key Club or whatever it is, we want those kids involved. And it makes a world of difference. The arts are extremely important. The creative side, as we look at technology, that's so much what they're looking at. You know, we used to learn to do. We would read the instructions to figure it out. Kids nowadays do to learn. You give your kid your iPhone, or give an 8-year-old an iPhone. They don't read a manual. They figure that out. It's that creative side, and the arts help with that. And we've been one of the top art schools, distinctive schools in the country, I think, Jason, for probably the last 7-8 years. So we're very proud of that. We're proud of all the programs, and we're so proud of what's happening.
So this is going to be the perfect segue. I am going to talk about the calendar now.
Oh, okay.
So we just talked about all of the incredible programming that's happening, arts programming that's happening through the city of Bartlett, through the Bartlett City Schools and the city of Bartlett, actually. And Mayor Parsons just invited everybody to come to Bartlett. And so you may be thinking to yourself, how do I know when everything is happening? Well, I'm going to tell you. The Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce has put together a incredible Bartlett City School District calendar. And it is a calendar that goes from July through June, and it covers the entire school year, and it has all of the important dates in it. It's got all kinds of information about the city of Bartlett. It's got information about the school district and all of the different things that are happening at the individual schools. And I'm sure that you want one. And you're thinking to yourself, how do I get one of these calendars? Well, I'm going to tell you. First South Financial is the official sponsor of the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce Bartlett City School District calendar, and where you can get your absolutely free copy of this calendar is at the Bartlett branch of First South Financial or the Cordova branch of First South Financial. And we're going to put the addresses of those locations on the screen, and you'll want to get there quickly because supplies are limited, and when they're gone, they're gone. So head over there ASAP and grab your calendar. And I'm going to add one more piece to that. So the reason we talk about the arts is because every single image that is used in that calendar is from the photography club at Bartlett High School. And these are award-winning photographs, and they're incredible. And it's perhaps even more important than how visually beautiful they are is how meaningful they are to the students who contributed these photographs and then were selected to be featured inside of the calendar. So one more piece that I will plug is that once you pick up your free calendar and you find your favorite picture, the First South Financial is hosting a raffle. And for $10, you can buy a raffle ticket. And the winner of the raffle will get a art print of their favorite photograph in the calendar. And then all of the proceeds from that raffle are going to be donated back to the photography department at Bartlett High School so that they can continue to offer this incredible programming.
Miss Tudor is a phenomenal teachers. And that's the thing. One of the things I do want to say about the schools, we have great teachers.
Yeah.
We cannot have a great school system. Today, Mayor Parsons was there. We had all of our teachers in, over 1,000 employees, our big annual system-wide address. It was just exciting to see all the energy and the great people, great principals, great folks we have in the district.
And I will completely agree that the school district has great teachers and administrators, but I'm going to go back a little bit further and say, what we talk about on this podcast in every episode is the community of the city of Bartlett. And I'm going to say, whether it's from the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's members of the business community, whether it's our city leadership, whether it's just community members, this community is made up of incredible, truly passionate people. And that's what's displayed in the teachers and the administrators. That's why. It's because there's so much passion behind it. I mean, and even from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, like there's passion all across this table.
Absolutely.
And great partnerships with the chamber, with the city, with the schools. It's really, that's one of the things we all work together for the best for all of our kids in our community.
So I'm going to ask one closing question as we close up this second episode on the Bartlett City Schools embarking on their 11th year after completing and celebrating their 10-year anniversary, which is amazing, which is like look at how far we've come. My final question is, what do you see when we look ahead? What's the future of Bartlett City Schools, and what is on the horizon?
I think we're going to have continued growth. I think we've planned for that growth. I think that's important. I think we're really looking at technology, how we are going to integrate that and make sure that our students that are digitally literate, they're very good, but how can we prepare them for technologies that haven't even been invented yet? And to be able to get our students to be great critical thinkers. I think that we are positioned. I know that Ford coming in, the other industries that are coming into the area are going to give great opportunities for our students. And we want to make sure that we're preparing them and that we are looking at now. Today, when I talked to our teachers, I said, look, we have had a great 10 years. Now we've got to cast the vision for what these next 10. So that's what we'll be doing in the next few years. What is this next 10 years going to look like, and how is it going to possibly impact our community?
Yep. And Mayor Parsons, do you want to kind of speak to not necessarily just Bartlett City Schools, but what's on the horizon for the city of Bartlett?
Well, tying with that, I think we've already began to reach out. We began to take in some property, expand our industrial development park, but it all evolves around commerce, housing values. They say housing values is only as good as your local schools. So it goes hand in hand. And rooftops where jobs go home to. But what I hope we see in the next 10 years, we're going to see increased commerce, diversity in our commerce. We're going to see an economy in Bartlett where these kids that come out of our high school can find employment in their hometown and do exactly what David said a minute ago, where if they want to sink their roots in their hometown and live and have the amenities that these younger people look for so that they don't have to drive out of our city to have that quality of life they're looking for. So we're going to really focus on more diversity in the entertainment and the restaurant business so that these people can enjoy the quality of life in their town. And our kids will stay here so moms, dads, grandmas, and grandpas don't have to drive off to some other town to visit their kids. The future's bright. The future's good. We got a lot of good things going on. And so just come be a part of it. Yep.
Well, I've had so much fun during this conversation. I love talking about Bartlett, and I love talking about this journey of the municipal school district. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Parsons, Dr. Stevens, for being here on the show. And I'm hungry after all of this. I just want some chicken and potatoes.
Well, I'd like to thank First South Financial for sponsoring this.
Yes.
If it wasn't for First South, y'all wouldn't be. We wouldn't be here.
Bartlett is the home of First South Financial.
That's right.
And that's why we love the city of Bartlett, and that's why we love the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce.
Well, we love y'all too.
Thanks.
And I would just like to say that, good commerce, as the mayor was talking about, a good business community is dependent on strong government leadership and a strong school system. So the two of y'all personify that, and we want to thank you, Lord. And you.
So I love watching these podcasts, and I always feel like they're such a love fest. But
what's your mother going to criticize you about this?
I don't know, but I'll let you know after. I'll let you know after she watches that episode. All right, everyone. Bye.
Go Panthers.
Tune in next time. Oh, wait! I forgot to talk about V2 Media. We've got to thank V2 Media for making this production.
Do we really?
Well, if we don't, Mark and Sam are going to come out here and be mad at us.
Oh, okay.
Jason, do you want to come out and say hi? We want to thank V2 Media for making the production of this podcast possible. Without them, we wouldn't be able to enter into your living rooms every day, or every week, or every other week. Make sure when you're watching, you like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Ring-a-ding-ding. I'm Maria McLendon with First South Financial, and thank you for watching. For real this time. Bye.